I have found that when you give people the responsibility and the latitude to make decisions, they enjoy that and they own it and they enjoy doing their jobs. We wanted to create a place where entrepreneurial-minded people could come in and fulfill their dreams. They could come in and create more or less their own segment of business without having to take the risk of going out and actually starting a company themselves. What happened with us actually starting Echo, we worked for a division of Emerson called Electrical Reliability Services. And as that company started getting kind of sucked up into the corporate entity that is Emerson, which is just a big, huge company, Joe began to lose a lot of his ability to run his branch of the business.
Scotty knew I was angry and said, maybe we ought to start a company just as a backup, because he'd always wanted to start a company. I never had any interest. So we did, and then a month later, they really ticked me off, so I said, let's go. To him, which we'd already formed our LLC, so at that point, we turned in our notice. The engineer and the operations guy said, here's what we're gonna go do. And then in that last month, we secured our first purchase order. So the day we opened, we had $52,000 in funded work for the two of us, and that was the genesis of it. I figured I could sell it, he would deliver it, and that's pretty much the way we've operated ever since.
We basically said, we want to start a company that we would want to work for if we were an employee.
It was a mutual thing that was built on respect, which is the way most everything we did in the early days, that's how we made every decision. What is best for both of us? So that's how the company got to be what it is. So my job was really early on as I went and tried to find more business, and he tried to execute what we got.
The first day we were open, we got 2 POs to do work at a power plant in Oklahoma. And from there, we've just never really looked back. One of the reasons we started Echo was to get away from the bureaucracy and the micromanagement. That's one of the things that we didn't want to do when we put together our own company. We had been probably in business for about 2 weeks, and we got a call from Todd McClanahan. And Todd is someone who worked with us in our other company. He said, I'm coming to work for you guys. And it was a statement. It wasn't a question. It was, just like, hey, I'm coming to work for y'all. And
so, Todd, we have no money to pay you. He said, that's all right, I don't need pay for a little while. But he says, I'm coming to work for you, because he'd already given his notice. So at that point, it's like, well, if he's goofy enough to do this, we're goofy enough to take him. That's pretty much the attitude. So Todd came in and pretty much took my field work immediately and became, Scotty's right-hand sort of guy. And then we'd already talked to Dan Marshall, which is, Dan, the day I gave my notice from Emerson, Dan gave his notice to Emerson. They asked him, where are you going? He said, well, I'll go to work for Joe.
Joe was my instructor as a prime power guy. In 88, I was class 88-1, Joe was class 78-1. When you work with someone, and you get to know them real well, you say, well, if you ever start a business, I want to work with you, right? So that's how Joe and I said, Joe has started his business. So it wasn't really like a recruitment or I asked for a job. I said, hey, Joe, when can you afford me?
during that first year, after Todd came to work for us and we hired a couple other people, Todd went and bought a new car. And we were like, Todd, what you doing there? New companies, sometimes struggle. And, he said, I believe in Echo. I believe in the people here, and I'm confident that we're going to succeed.
So that was a big deal back then. You buy a truck, and then you take a picture of it, and we send it around, right? Because that meant you had a debt you had to pay, right? And you could not let the company fail, which was a big deal.
His I believe statement kind of became a logo for us. We actually had coffee cups made with I believe, and it was just something that was kind of a way we encouraged ourselves and one another, just in, hey, we can do this together. We work as a team. We can do it. We had connections, and people put us in contact with NASA. So we went down, one of our early jobs, we went to Huntsville at Redstone Arsenal, and NASA is a tenant organization down there. They have a couple of hundred buildings on that facility. and they were having problems with their electrical system. We went down there, and it's kind of one of the funny Echo stories, because we went down there and there's a gruff old facilities guy. I mean, this is literally what he said. We've been working on this for 20 years, and we need somebody to solve it. And of course, Joe, in his normal fashion, said, "Hey, we can do it. That's not a problem. Not a problem. We'll just do this and that and the other." And you know, me and Todd McClanahan was with us on that trip. We were sitting there listening. Joe was doing most of the talking. And literally, we walked out of the building, and I said, "How are we going to do this?" And Joe was like, "I don't know. Y'all figure it out." But they gave us a PO, and we did figure it out. And, you know, that NASA job that we got, it turned into a kind of one of the jobs that helped kind of launch who Echo was.
I was still with the previous company until NASA came in with Echo. And that NASA job was huge for Echo. And that's when Joe and Scotty says, you know, "Hey, Fred, it's time for us to, we want you."
NASA was a big project. That was one of our first, and we had the opportunity to go there and present what we were going to do. And needless to say, they were kind of skeptical. But at the end of the project, they were not skeptical anymore.
Joe said, "Give me your resume. I'm going to create a position for you. I want somebody like you working for me." He spotted that in you, and then as they got, you know, of course, to know me, they spotted. I think they spotted that in me too.
Joe and I probably started talking. You know, we were next door neighbors, so we were talking before Echo was Echo, and I actually said, "Joe, I think you're crazy for starting a company in the middle of a recession. There's, you know, you have mouths to feed. There's people counting on you." We really had that conversation on his front steps one day. And, you know, the rest is history now.
The first 12 people that we had working for Echo, we called them the Dirty Dozen, is a name that got coined at the time and kind of stuck with them. That group, we knew all of them in some form or fashion before they came to work for us. We had some connection to them.
They didn't come on board because they were engineered pedigrees or they run power plants or they were substation techs. They came on board because their attitude and the capability to learn and the want to learn said, "Well, you're Echoes." And that's what it really came down to. You're an Echo.
Because everybody knew what everybody else was doing, and everybody was concerned what everybody else was doing, because we couldn't let the other guy fail, right? Because that affected everyone. So it's a big teamwork.
You knew you could count on anybody for anything. Everybody had your back. Everybody wore multiple hats. And then watching it grow little by little, and I'm like, wow, one day we're gonna have 20 employees. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to stop at 30 for sure.
We realized we were going at a little faster pace than what we had anticipated. I think we began to see more of the opportunities to do a broader array of things than what we had initially set out to do. And so we just kept on that path.
People call them growing pains, right? But I think Echo has handled it really well and not abruptly making change, but slowly bringing it in so that the existing employees, you know, can get accustomed.
We started doing some data center work. Then we started getting into hospital work really in 2011. We did our first emergency power system or essential power system in a hospital. And that kind of launched us into doing the hospital work. And from day one, that work has always been turnkey work. Our customers had other companies that were failing in other system areas like mechanical. They came to us and said, "Can you do a mechanical job?" The heating and cooling for the hospital, the hot water for the hospital, those types of systems. And we just kept taking on those types of projects. And as we did, you know, the work that we were already doing didn't lessen. And so that just caused us to grow and to grow rapidly. You know, if you look at our history from 2009, we have essentially doubled every 2 years. It's been very rewarding when you look back and see what we have been able to accomplish And all of the hospitals that we've been able to help, all the other customers that we've been able to help along the way, have good facilities to work in, keeping the power on, keeping the lights on, and keeping people safe. So it's pretty rewarding. A true Echo is someone who is willing to work hard, to serve others, to improve the lives of others. Working inside of a team, with a team, I think, a true Echo brings a can-do attitude. They want the hard problems. They're willing to dive into the difficult things, the complex things, with the belief that working together as a team, they can solve the problem and make customers' lives better. And Echoes are willing to go the extra mile. They're willing to do what others are not willing to do. They're willing to maybe take on a task that's not inside their job description because that's what is needed at the moment. That's what a true Echo is.
We want people to be so much more than folks having a job on a career path. We really want people to be vested and invested in our story, in our growth, in our success. It just, we need people to be in it, heart and soul.
Everything that we do, we have some level of teamwork involved. There's not just one person that is responsible for 100%. Everyone's got a little piece of it, and we all should share in that.
You have to be a self-starter, self-motivator. You have to hold yourself accountable.
I think that people that we hire in the future need to be optimistic. They need to have a mindset of, I don't know it now, but I will. What I don't know, who can help me to get where I need to go?
If we mess something up, we fix it. We don't hide it. There's no reason to. Everyone's going to make a mistake, and we've preached that from the beginning. I've been on one of those phone calls where one of the engineers has messed something up, and I'm there in the room too, and we have a good hour-long safety talk afterward, and like what we won't do again. And that's the biggest thing for me, is the integrity part.
Just taking ownership of, your work. It's hard, but I mean, the opportunity's here for sure. But you also have to have the discipline to work from home and stay working.
Echo's your oyster. You can do anything at Echo. I am living proof. You can do anything at Echo. If you're hungry, if you show an ounce of interest in growth, in challenge, Echo's going to give it to you. Yeah, they'll have you drinking from a fire hose if that's what you want to try.
The only thing that has ever hindered our growth is just having the right people. And so we're always in search of the people that fit the Echo culture, who want to own the responsibility and come in and be a part of what we're doing. As we find those people, I think the sky is the limit, just as it's always been here at Echo.